Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, my guest this episode is the biggest Yankee fan in Mineola. He is really, literally, Google it, the biggest Yankee fan in Mineola, George Papadimatos. He's an actor, producer, working on the pilot for a new sitcom that you should check out, but also he's a huge Yankee fan, so let's bring him on. Hey, George, welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome, my friend. Thank you for having me. This is a blast.
Yeah, so fellow Yankee fans, so people can follow you on Instagram at GPapa, Jimmy Jenny, as well as check out your website, GeorgePapadimatos.com. Just learn about all the cool stuff that you do. Again, you're a stand-up comedian, you're a producer, you're an actor. You had a speaking role in the HBO series The Deuce, as well Daredevil of the Marvel series. But most importantly, you're the biggest Yankee fan in Mineola. That's most important.
Yes, sir. That is a fact. That's right. I was on a Yankee commercial for 2 years with that, and I also won the biggest Yankee fan contest with. I got to hang out with Johnny Damon and Pete Davidson in 2016. It was fantastic. Really nice guys.
So, what was how was that contest run? Like, what was it about?
They just had a bunch of people write in about why they're a Yankee fan, how big they are, whatever, and came down to me and four other people. It was five of us that actually made it. They picked five out of like a whole bunch. And I told them I was the biggest Yankee fan in Mineola. And I said all this stuff and my WFAN, Mike calling Mike and the dog and Joe and Evan and everybody and Schmooze and all those guys for many years. And I got in there. So, that got me that. And that led to the Yankee commercial I did a couple years later in 2019 and 2020, which was pretty cool. So go ahead.
Yeah, and people can literally Google in the biggest Yankee fan in Mineola, and you come. So how did you get that to earn that title?
That's actually really funny because that was like kind of I'm not the biggest tech guy, but when I do my Instagram, I always hashtag at the end of all my hashtags, I hashtag biggest Yankee fan in Mineola. So I just did it for all my posts. And, one day I was at the ball game with a couple of my friends and they're talking to these ladies in front of us here, these girls, and they say, hey, this guy's the biggest Yankee. I'm like, will you stop? And they really care. And then they goes, hey, I wonder if you Google that, would you come up? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's see. And I Googled it. Whoa, I guess it linked up through all the hashtags. So that was like a happy accident. I didn't know that would happen but I constantly did that and it just kind of linked, which is cool because it takes you to my acting website and all my contact info if somebody's trying to look me up for a gig or something like that. So that's pretty cool. So it's an easier thing than saying, look up George Papadimatos. Because, people can't say my name for some reason.
Yeah, it's just easy to just the biggest Yankee fan in Mineola is much easier, actually.
Much easier.
So, congratulations. I saw that you raised funds for a pilot. Now you're going to start shooting called Jimmy and Jenny. So just tell us a little bit about it.
Jimmy's and Jenny's is a show. Okay, well, I was supposed to play the biggest role of my life. Was supposed to be a lead role in an off-Broadway play. Okay, and I got this. It was a dream, and I'm like, Chaz Palminteri's my teacher. And I was studying with him and I'm like, this is it. This is this is going to change my life. And then we're supposed to open in June of 2020. But as we all know, March 15th, the whole world shut down. So with that, my opportunity was squashed. And I was like really upset by it. But my dad was my hero, Jimmy. And, he was this Greek guy from, the islands. And he never got upset. Everything was, hello, how do you do? You want a cheeseburger? You want a tuna? You want a roast beef? It was always about food. If I didn't play sports, I'd be like 1,000,000 pounds. And he never got mad. He was always like, no worry, have something to eat, Judge. Everything be okay. No worry, no worry. Always calm. So I sat there and I said, I'm going to make something to eat and I'm going to figure something out. So I did. And I called one of my best friends, Maytal Angel, who's one of my best friends and most talented actress I know. And we've done a lot of work together in acting. And we've been trying to write this show about my life for about 7 years. And every time we started doing it, one of us booked a gig. So we had to put it on a shelf. And now we're like, hey, you know what? The whole world's shut down. Hollywood's closed. Broadway's shut down. We got no excuse. If we don't do it now, we're never going to do it. Let's do it. So we got to work. And as things got worse, everything got so depressing and sad. I was like, I'm big into comedy. I'll do drama. I'll do anything, but comedy is my love. Anytime I can be funny and make somebody laugh, it makes me so happy. So that's what my dad did. He made everybody laugh. That was his gift. He made everybody happy. Everybody loved him, and so I was just like, I'm not a big fan of the comedies today. After Modern Family, I don't like the comedies. I like the dramas, but the comedies don't make me laugh. And I'm like, I want to make a show. This world needs laughter more than anything right now. We need to heal. So I said, Maytal, let's do this. And we did it. We made a funny show about real life characters that I grew up with, about my life. I'm playing myself, but it's 2 shows in one. I play myself in the present. I'm biggest Yankee fan, Mineola. I'm an actor that's trying to get there. My fiance dumps me because she can't wait around for my acting to make it anymore. So I'm in the dumps, but I end up buying my dad's old diner. And in the flashbacks, I end up going back to the 80s and I play my dad. So I get to do the hello, how do you do, Mr. Jimmy? Oh, you want a tuna? You want a cheeseburger? You want a BLT? And I get to do my dad. And so you learn about Jimmy and Jenny, my mom and dad. It's Greek diner, kind of like a Cheers in a Greek diner. With like an Everybody Loves Raymond, because all my cousins have to work with me and they drive me. That's the catch, and like my uncle gives me the money if I give his family a job and we're all going to kill each other, try to get through the day. But there's love and it's funny and it's just good people. And we're not trying to preach to anybody or whatever. It's just about good, funny, ridiculous people that you can watch with your parents or your kids or anybody and have a good time for a half hour. That's all I want to do is make people laugh.
Yeah, well, I'll just wish you the best of luck with that. Either way, it is an accomplishment, at least to get that done. Now, I'll just want to say one thing about diners. Yes. No matter where, they always have the best coffee. So I don't know what it is, something about a diner coffee. Maybe it's the mug, maybe it's the counter. I don't know, but it always has the best coffee.
This is true.
Just one quick question just about Mineola itself. Now, you're dangerously close to Queens. How'd you not go to the dark side of the Mets?
Well, see, now, when I was a kid, my favorite Yankee was Thurman Munson. Okay, I was a little kid and Thurman was my guy. And believe it or not, Mineola, even though it is close to Queens, it was very much a split town as far as Yankees, Mets, Islanders, Rangers, Jets, Giants. It was always kind of split, So my brother also, I have an older brother who's 10 years older than me, and I had no choice but to, when I was 3, I had to know the batting stances of Mickey Rivers and, every guy, Randolph, Bucky Dent, everybody. I had to be able to do it, and that was it. If I said the word Mets, something bad would happen. So it's funny because I don't hate the Mets. Tom Seaver was my favorite. I don't hate him. I snuck in a game, in 86 Game 7 when I was a kid. Me and my buddy snuck in there, but I've been to every Yankee series. I just, I took to the Yankees. My favorite Yankee was Thurman, and we got Donnie Baseball and Paul O'Neill, Jeter, Mickey Rivers. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I mean, the Yankees on my deal. But yes, I grew up in a Yankee family. So basically that was my indoctrination to the Yankees.
Okay. So, so we have this 2022 Yankee team, which is like amazingly 30 games over 500. The offseason was very quiet for them. They were kind of complaining Cashman wasn't making any moves, kind of bringing back a lot of the same team. Didn't really do much, getting the big name free agents. Are you just shocked that this team's been so good this season?
I got to tell you something. You're not going to believe me. I did not expect them to be this great, obviously. No way would I have said 30 games over 500, but I did expect them to be a first place team. I did. Because, I wasn't that impressed. I thought Toronto had a good lineup, but they lacked defense. They lost their Cy Young guy the year before. Tampa's losing. They can't keep losing all these guys every year. It's going to catch up to them. Boston was looking kind of weaker this year. I thought we had a great shot for the division. And I got to tell you, my number one thing, I've been saying it for 2 years, get rid of Sanchez. I also wanted to get rid of Chapman and Hicks this year in the offseason. Once Hicks showed that he could play in the offseason, I was like, trade him. And same with Chapman. He's a free agent after the year. I'm like, you'll get something for him. Just do it. We still got those guys. And we might end up keeping Hicks because he's coming around a little bit lately, but he is also the only really other guy that can play center field if you want to give Judge a break, which you have to do. But I didn't expect this level, obviously, but I expected a first. I really did, because a lot of people get on Cashman. It's hard to make these deals when everybody's gunning for you to try to, make you spend the most of this, that, or whatever. I love when he does these under the radar things. Getting rid of Sanchez was key. for me because it was just the guy can't catch. You know, he's going to strike out 3 times a game and hit a home run once a week. You know, it doesn't, you know, and by getting rid of him, you bolstered the defense so much. And Kiner's a really good guy, kind of fell off at short. I didn't like getting rid of Gio because I love Gio, but I get that you had to do it in order to make the deal. And Donaldson, I like him. You know, I do like him. I got a feeling Gio's going to come back possibly in a couple of years too. Although you might get DJ moving to third when Donaldson's done. But I really believe the defense, because here's another thing about Sanchez. People always talk about that he can't catch and whatever. Those guys are tough to catch. They're always in the dirt. They're always all over. How many times, think about it, does a pitcher not throw a ball in the dirt with 2 strikes because he's afraid it's going to get by, and he might have to maybe leave it up a little bit because of that. And we don't even think of stuff like that. So that getting rid of him was a big, big, big thing for me. And I just like, you know, you got to give this people freaking out when they lost 2 out of 3 to Baltimore. I'm like, guys, the 98 Yankees lost the first bunch of games to Seattle and Torrey almost got fired. And, you know, they lost 3 out of 4. I'm like, you can't, this isn't football. You know, it's not over in, you know, April spring training, you know, so you got to just go easy. And I really believed in this team. I like the defense. They're running bases. They're just playing baseball. You got guys making contact like Kiner Falefa, Trevino. They're not trying to hit home runs. I don't need 9 guys that hit 20 homers. You need guys. I don't care if Kiner Falefa doesn't hit 1 home run. He's making the plays. He's getting hits. He uses the whole field. He gets clutch hits. That's what we need. You know, not this strikeout, walk, a home run, or nothing thing. You know, so we got to get away from that. Keep things moving. So I'm really. I predicted a first place team. You can tell people. My friends will vouch for me. I also what do you call it with Cashman? How many guys has he got? Yeah, he's, you know, you can't be right all the time. But think about it. Didi was a nobody 225 hitter that became great here. You know, Voit came off the scrap heap. He was a really good player. Urshela was a 225 hitter that nobody, all of a sudden he's getting his bat on the ball. He's clutch. He's a star, you know? So, I mean, look at Holmes. They're closing. I mean, come on, you know, like you got to give Cashman credit for that. You got to bomb once in a while, you know, on a deal like a Hicks or whatever, but, you know, okay. But you got to give the guy credit for these out of the box things, because that's what he has to do, because everybody's gunning for him to make the obvious trade and try to get too much in return. So he has to look at guys that are like, you know, with a 4.50 ERA on the Pirates and say, hey, I could turn that guy into somebody maybe. They took a shot with Gallo. It was a good shot, you know, but I'm glad they kept Rizzo, told everybody, I didn't want anybody else. Save that money for Judge, and they better pay Judge. That's one thing that got me really upset. Was I know they made him a decent offer. Sorry, you got to get it done, because now it's going to cost you $40 million or more. And if you don't think the Red Sox and Mets are going to come gunning for him and try to up that ante, it's going to happen. So to me, they sell nothing but Judge jerseys, the Judge's chambers. He's one of those marketable guys in the whole sport, and he's a class act. So pay him. I don't care if he's 30 and he's been hurt a couple of times. You took a chance with Stanton, right? Pay Judge. I don't care if they pay anybody else. Pay Judge, and you live or die with him. That's how it goes, and there's nothing to be ashamed of that. I would have done it with anybody. Donnie Baseball, Jeter, any of these guys. If you get a guy like that once in a while, you got to say, hey, this guy's got what it takes. He's our team. He's their leader. He's got to do it. So I'm happy with this team. I love it. Love the small ball. Love the stealing bases. Love the defense. Love it all.
And Judge is, again, he's picking the right time to have an MVP type season, and like he couldn't have planned it any better.
I can't say enough about Aaron Judge. I met like so many Yankees, and I haven't gotten to meet Judge yet, and I hope I get to do that one day. He's my favorite Yankee, and just the way he does his stuff. Like you saw when those fans were throwing beers at the Cleveland players and early in the year, he's the first guy out there. Hey, no, you know, who's going to do that? I mean, Stanton and a couple of guys, Rizzo, they came after him too, but man, like he's the, you know, where are you going to get a guy like that? You know, it looks easier than it is. And most guys don't do that. They would have sat in the dugout, and he went out there. This is my team. This is my field. You know, we don't do this here. He likes the fans. Hey, guy, he has a catch with a kid in between innings, you know, and warms up. I mean, this is the priceless stuff about this guy that goes beyond hitting 40 homers and doing all this stuff. Like when you get all that with it, and there's just a class act from a great family, dude, you got to do it. You just got to get this guy done, pay him what he wants. Should have done it last year, but he's the best. He's my favorite.
Now, one thing we saw from the season, though, and I'm not really the biggest fan of it, is Boone's been playing a lot of him in center field. Now, I think a lot of that's out of necessity because Hicks got off to a terrible start, so he just needed production. But I don't know. I just think in the long term, they might burn him out a little bit just because that's a lot of field to cover for a big guy.
I agree. Like he can do it. I mean, he's a great center fielder. He really is. I mean, he used to be a tight end in football in college, and I think that's why that helps him, his ability to track things down. But I agree. You don't want to see him out there every day, ideally, and I think that's why I was thinking they were going to try to deal Hicks. But I'm like, you know what? Now that he's contributing a little bit, like I said earlier, I think they're going to keep Hicks just to give him some rest in center field, at least for this year, and then maybe go get a regular center fielder next year or something, because he can do it. I mean, he could be like a Mickey Mantle guy, but he is 6'7", 282. So, like, you don't want to do it for a year. I think you can do it right now. They're vested in it. Just give him a break every now and then. But I agree with you in the long term. Maybe this year, okay, but I like to slide him back in the right at least by next year, and then get a regular center fielder or something like that. No doubt. A speed guy would be preferable. I can't stand when he bats leadoff. I can't stand it. All these sabermetric analytic guys with he gets up the most at bats. I can't. He'd have like 65 RBIs right now if he batted third. Second, I can live with, but when he bats leadoff against Detroit, like how many more bats do you have to get this guy against the Tigers? Like what good does it do when he hits that solo home run? It's nice. It's never, but gosh, like I would bat him third, but second I can live with. I can live with first, no more. Just stop with get a real leadoff hitter, get a guy that can run and get on base, maybe put LeMahieu in the 2-hole and then have Judge in the 3 and then work it down from there, Rizzo and all these other guys stand to be great. But I just when he bats leadoff, it makes me bananas. Like it really does.
Yeah, I was like, again, the offseason, that's the only thing I kind of felt was missing, like not getting that speed. So like I like back in the day when we had like, Tim Raines, Jeter, Bernie, like a traditional leadoff hitter, a traditional second place and a traditional third place hitter. But but I guess that person wasn't out there, so they had to put up that. So kind of leads to my next question. You kind of mentioned a little before. I mean, you think they're going to, Gallo and Hicks have improved a little bit this month? Do you think they're just going to ride them out the rest of the season, or do you see them trying to unload one of them just to bring in another center fielder or a left fielder?
I mean, I don't know what's going to be out there. That's a question of I think they would move Gallo more than they would move Hicks right now, only because, like I said, I mean, Gallo might be able to play center field too, but Hicks can play center field for sure. So I think just for that reason, and he's been there and he knows there's a comfort level there with the guys. So I think they could deal them both. It was nice to see Hicks with some emotion. He's getting into this. This whole team is like really everybody wants to do something. You saw Torres, he's stealing bases like, 2 years ago, last year, he was just walking around like this, it was hard. I was ready to get rid of him too. I was like, if he's not good by the All-Star break, I love you, Glaber, but goodbye. But they benched him early this year, pinch hit, won a game. And all of a sudden, because he got benched, and it's like, wow, they got LeMahieu can play, Donaldson can play. We got Marwin Gonzalez these guys can all take my job. I got to step it up. That's what I was hoping Hicks was going to do. And he got a really bad start. But they could deal them both. But I think Gallo's gone by the end of the year, anyway. His contract is up. They'll probably try to trade him. I think they might keep Hicks just, again, for that possible defensive, you can slip him in those plays. And he's a switch hitter, that could keep him unless they get blown away by a deal, which I don't think is going to happen. But we'll see. When they get hot and see what happens.
And I just wanted to actually get into the closer situation. You mentioned Chapman you would like to see gone, but obviously he's going to come back at some point now. When he comes back, should he be the closer or should they stick with the hot Holmes?
I'm sticking with Holmes. I mean, come on. He passed Mariano's scoreless streak. look, I don't dislike Chapman, and maybe his, I mean, you usually know by like the third pitch if Chapman's got it or not. He's either lights out or it's like, oh geez, and you got to like just, do a dance in your seat or something. And maybe his inconsistency more this year had something to do with his injury. We'll find out. I mean, his fastball was down a tick. So like, it doesn't really help when he's throwing 98, but he needs to be throwing at least 101, or over 100 anyway. So maybe he'll come back better, but you got to go with Holmes and just find a place for Chapman here and there, make it at the 8th inning and see how he does. And then, once in a while, if the guy needs a break or whatever, you can have him close the game. Sure. Just like King closed the game a week or two ago, they don't go 3 days in a row, these guys. So Holmes is my closer and Chapman can find his way. And if he wants to get dealt, he can get dealt, I mean, why not? No problem.
Yeah. Same thing. I think he'll just stick with Holmes, and again, unless Holmes flutters, he's kind of earned to keep the job at this point.
Absolutely.
Another question out for the Yankees, the starting rotation has been phenomenal overall, but, come playoff time, you have Taillon and Nestor technically haven't been in that spot. So let's say they're down in the series 2-1. I mean, do you trust them to take the mound there and, maybe not buckle under the pressure?
Absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, a guy like Nestor, who I loved from the get-go. To me, he was like an El Duque, who was one of my favorite pitchers, like a Louis Tiant type guy. And these guys have no fear. Guys like see, that's another thing where Cashman took a good shot was on Taillon, like you mentioned also. But Nestor is a guy who he's just a ball player. He wasn't a top guy. He's a guy that doesn't throw that hard. I like guys that are pitchers that think, that go inside, outside, up, down, use the whole, not these. You get tired of these 100-mile-an-hour guys that just try to blow you away. And then if they don't have that fastball, they're done, So, Nestor is a guy, he's just always thinking. He's always trying to throw a guy off. He's got guys in the box that they're not, they're not comfortable because they just don't know what the hell's going to come. And I love that. He just keep guys off balance. So guys like him had to fight for every single thing just to be the number 5 starter. I said this year, before the season started, Nestor as your number 5. And now again, like the Yankees season, I did not predict Nestor having this, but I did think he'd be an awesome number 5 starter, whether it's a 3.30 ERA, realistically predicting, I wouldn't have predicted 1 and change, but like 3-something with a couple of wins and a guy that'll give you innings, just a crafty guy, like a Jimmy Key guy, like one of those guys. So I love Nestor as your number 5. I thought he was a bargain and big advantage. So I got no problem with any of these guys in a big spot. Montgomery, Sevy, any of them, but especially not Nestor. And Taillon, listen, Taillon was good before he got hurt a couple of years ago. And he also played with Cole when they were on Pittsburgh. So there's a bonding there with all these guys. And as you know, when you get the pitching, it's like competitive. Same, it's like every guy wants to outdo the next guy when they keep doing well. And the catching's got so much to do with that. Pitching coach and these two guys, Trevino and Higashioka. And I'm glad Higashioka, now that he got his first home and he was pressing. I mean, he's can hit. He's definitely better than what he's hitting. And, he had a great spring. I think he lost that starting job and it got on him. He was pressing and now he got a couple of homers and now he's relaxed. And you're going to see his batting average creep up, and I'm glad with everybody, man. The pitching, everything, the whole thing. I'm fanatic. I love it all.
Yeah, I figured they might, if they were going to make a move, maybe some of the backup catcher role. But yeah, I like the Higgy's turn it on now, up to 4 home runs. So really quickly, before we finish, of course, Judge picking the right time to have a good season. But Brian Cashman now, this is his team. And again, it's the best team in baseball right now. Does that mean you think he gets an extension, after the season? Because, this is the final year of his contract.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how can you not? I mean, I'm a big Cashman supporter, we got spoiled. A lot of Yankee fans get not me, not you, but younger people that grow up and all of a sudden they grow up in the 90s and they're all winning all the time. It's like, that's not, it's funny. People used to say to me like, oh, that must've been the worst loss when the Yankees lost to Boston in 2004. And I go, you know what? It sucked. but it wasn't, because we won 4 out of 5, 3 in a row. I've seen perfect games. I've been to parades, no hitters, beat the Mets. You know, you can't win every time. The worst loss for me, besides Munson dying when I was a kid, that was the worst. The worst for me besides that was in losing to Seattle, you know, Donnie Baseball. That was the one. I was at both those games, at the home games. The crowd was incredible, the loudest crowd. Even David Cohn, I'll never forget, Cohn was pitching in game 1 of that 95 playoff. I was in the bleachers that day. I wanted to be in the bleachers. I could have sat anywhere I wanted back in those days. Could have bought any ticket, but I want to sit in the bleachers in right field and get in this. Cohn was up with the bases loaded, middle of the game, 5th or 6th inning. I think pitching to Edgar Martinez, 3-2 count. Edgar fouling off pitch after pitch after pitch, and the crowd was going nuts on every pitch. And you could feel, you know, that old stadium used to rock and shake. And Cohn said it later. He said, that's the by far the loudest crowd I ever heard in my life. He was on that mound and he felt like he was getting lifted. And I'm like, yeah, because I felt it too. That series was the biggest loss for me, was Seattle. It just was, because Mattingly, you know, I wanted Donnie to get there, and they should have won that series. I thought Buck Showalter, I love Buck, but I thought he overmanaged. He kept taking out Mariano. I know people go, oh, nobody knew. I was watching as a kid back then. I was like, you know, Wetland, they were figuring him out. Mariano came in, got one guy out. Oh, he's gone. Leave him in, you know, and they didn't play Strawberry enough. They stuck with Deion James. I thought that was a big mistake, because Deion had a terrible second half. But I can get into that season too.
Yeah, I remember that. And I think the 3 games at the Kingdom, the Yankees had like leads in all those games too. That was the frustrating point. They just had to win one. And yeah, that whole offseason, I was just miserable as heck. Good thing they won the World Series the next year, because I don't know, maybe I was just giving up on baseball totally.
That was the hardest loss for me, was Seattle. Much more than, like I said, the Red Sox. Hey, you know what? It sucked, but they finally won. And it had to happen one of these days, you know, and they did. And you know, tip your hat. That's it. You know, they deserved it. That's all.
All right, George. Well, I appreciate getting this time. You know, great speaking to you, a fellow Yankee fan. Good luck on the pilot. Again, people can check it out on Instagram. G Papa Jimmy Jenny, as well. Check out your website, GeorgePapadimatos.com.
We also have Jimmy's and Jenny's fan pages on Instagram and Facebook. And dude, when are we going to meet up? I got the Yankee game. Let's go. I want to hit a game. Let's go.
I hit you up. Yeah, I got a couple of friends along around there. Yeah, I'll message you next time.
I'm meeting at the ballpark. Let's go.